I remember when I covered this particular story right here and being immediately disgusted the more I read on with this story. Now, those of you who have been following me for a while, I think I spoke about this on my original channel before it got terminated, or it may have been last year. I can't remember exactly when the story actually broke. But these two uh, demons right here aren't even worthy of being called human beings, nor are they deserving of being parents. Because these two individuals right here, whose names are David and, Louise Turpin, tortured their 13 children for many, many years. And I'm talking about to the highest levels of extremities. Well, guess what happened today with these two crypt keeping relics? Both of them have been sentenced to life in prison. I say good. Put both of their asses in gin pop. Don't give them any possibility of parole, which I don't think they're going to give them any, because of how torturous this, how I would say how much torture they put their children, how much crap they put their children through. 13 children, tortured all of them. And the way that they got found out was when one of the children made a video and they posted it online, and basically, saying that they need help, they need to get out, their parents are torturing them, and that's how they pretty much got exposed, because I think one of them was able to get away. I mean, I'm talking about they practically held those kids hostage. They wouldn't feed them, they would abuse them, like a whole bunch of shit. Like, they literally said they were living in the house of horrors, and that's exactly what it was. A lot of people tend to think that, especially in our community, that a lot of white people tend to be great parents. From the outside looking in, you would think that. But you'll be surprised by how many parents are like the ones in this story right here. I'm glad that the judge dropped the gauntlet on both of their asses. Don't give one sentence and then give the other one a whole nother sentence. No, give them the life together. I hope that those kids of theirs actually are able to develop and move forward from that. And based on what I was reading, it says that they are ready to move forward with their lives. I couldn't even imagine being in that particular position. All I keep also thinking about was when with Devontae Hart and his siblings, and how he was basically crying out to us for help, but we didn't see the signs. I'm sure their kids were doing the exact same thing. I mean, you could just look at these two right here and tell that they are not well in the head just by looking at them. They look like they should be on the Addams Family. Like, when I looked at them, that's exactly what they look like. They came straight out of that show or that movie, depending on what generation you're a part of. Like, I don't like hearing or seeing like torture stories like this, especially when there are kids involved, especially our kids, because it's always for me going to be black first, always. But too many times you see a lot of these palm colored parents do stuff and they constantly get away with it, especially when it comes to kidnapping, torturing their kids. And I'm like, if they could get away with that, they could get away with anything. But they said it was too much going on with this story and with this case that they was not going to allow them to just walk away from this unscathed. Like, I always say, mental torture is worse than physical. At least you can heal from your physical wounds. But if you get into somebody's psyche, into someone mentally, you have them for a while. Look at the black community, for instance. We went through centuries of chattel slavery, our ancestors. We went through decades of Jim Crow. And it trickled down to how we operate today. That is a part of the mental enslavement. And it takes a very strong-willed person to break free of that. Unfortunately, as a collective, we have not done that. Hopefully we can do it, or it'll happen sometime in our lifetime. But this story right here was sick. I'm going to read some of the article. I'm not going to read the entire thing. I'm just going to read like the more important parts. It says California House of Horror parents get life in prison with a possibility of parole after 25 years. See, that's where they messed up. They should not get a possibility of parole ever. David and Louise Turpin, the parents whose 13 children were found shackled and malnourished in their suburban California home that became known as the House of Horrors, were sentenced Friday to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years served. In February, the Paris couple each pleaded guilty to 14 felony counts, including cruelty to an adult dependent, child cruelty, torture, and false imprisonment in Riverside Superior Court. That's one thing I forgot to mention. One of the children is over the age of 18 that they had chained up and shackled in that house. Now, what does that tell you? They were able to restrain an adult. Yes, that's their child, but they were able to restrain someone who is of legal age. That shows you how fucking crazy these two are. At the time, Riverside County District Attorney Mike Hestrin said his office pursued a plea agreement in the case to ensure the victims didn't have to testify about the abuse they suffered. We decided that the victims have endured enough torture and abuse. The sentence came 15 months after the Turpins were arrested on January 14, 2018. Okay, so it was last year when I talked about this story, but it was early last year. That's why I felt like it was 2 years ago. And a day after, an audio tape released to the public of the 911 call made by the Turpins' then 17-year-old daughter who escaped their house and blew open the high-profile case. They said at the time of the phone call, the siblings ranged from age 2 to 29. Let me say that again. Age 2, as in toddler, to age 29, as in about to be 30. And they have 13 children. They actually had a 2-year-old being malnourished and chained up. And they like to say that black people make bad parents. Like I say, I know we rough around the edges in some cases, but in most cases, we will not go to these extremes. I don't know if I've ever heard of a story where a black parent chained up their child and didn't feed them. I've heard stories, but none like this. Let me see if there's anything else in here that I can pull out of here. It says, prosecutor said the parents beat, strangled, and starved the kids in an intensifying cycle of abuse dating back to at least 2010 when the family lived in Texas. So you got to think, if this case blew up in 2018 or late 2017, that means this has been going on for, at the time, for 7 to 8, almost 8 years. It says, among other disturbing behavior, the Turpin family slept all day and were up all through the night, going to bed about 4 or 5 a.m. The children were forbidden to shower more than once a year. Let me say that again. The children were not allowed to shower for more than once a year. Not once a day, not once a week, not once a month, but once a year. That means out of 365 days, 366 in a leap year, they were only able to shower one time. That means that house had to be smelling something shitty. Now, the reason why I think this stuck out to me right here that I just enunciated on is because when I did this or covered this story when it first broke, I don't think I remember hearing that part. Because otherwise, this part wouldn't have caught me by surprise. They did not let them shower for except one time a year. That means if they had them shackled up since 2010 to 2007 to 2018, each sibling took a total of 7 or 8 showers per sibling. Let me see is there anything else. And it says none had ever seen a dentist. And they hadn't seen a doctor in years. They said, however, the couple purchased enough food for themselves and would leave some of it, including pies, out on the counter where their children could see, but not eat it. I'm telling you, this story just gets more disturbing. Now you see why they got life in prison, but I don't see why they only got 25 years before they are eligible for parole. They need to take that off the table and just give them the life in prison and put them in a high maximum security prison where people out there have heard this story. They said the siblings lacked a basic knowledge of life. They said the Turpin's then 29-year-old daughter weighed 82 pounds when she was found. 82 pounds at the age of 29? She only weighed a little bit more than double her age. That means if you probably even touched her the wrong way, or if she fell, her bones would probably break easily. Let me continue. It says in January, the attorney for the 7 adult children told NBC that the siblings were not bitter. They really take every day as a gift. It says for the first time, they are able to make their decisions and decide what they're going to eat, where they're going to go, and where they're going to study. Well, good for them. This story right here is insanity. And mind you, I just picked pieces of that article out. That was not even the entire article that I just read to you. So you can imagine what else is in there that I did not read. This has got to be one of the most outrageous stories I have ever seen. And I think I said that or alluded to that when I first talked about it. When I first reported on it, was it last year? Just wild. This is a wild ass story. But you know what? I'm glad that their kids are doing better, because no person deserves to go through that. As for these two, put them through the most intensifying portion of a piece of hell, pieces, it should rather, that they can possibly find. If it was left up to me, I would put them through like a jigsaw thing. You know, like the movie Saw, I would probably put them through something like that. But they wouldn't be able to figure out the pieces to the puzzle. I would make it where they have to like get tortured through every station they get to the point where they couldn't even get to the end. So I would probably rig that game just so they could be deceased by the time they try to make it to the end. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this story down in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next one.